I welcome Paul Fitch, Zack Taylor, and Ken Bennett to the panel today. And we are missing Jeff Hooch, who is off on a personal matter. So anything you guys want to start off discussing? I'm kind of curious about where all this money went that Katie Hobbs spent. Or did she spend it? Or what's going on there?
Well, if you don't mind, Don, I'd like to first say something, express our concern and condolences to the families of the victims of this mid-air collision in Washington last night.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I saw the video last night that probably many of you have seen, the two little blips and their lights come together and all of a sudden there's a big flash, and I can only imagine, looks like we lost 67 people in an instant. And I've been in meetings all day today and traveling down in the Phoenix area. I don't know if they've started to identify or realize who was on the plane, but last night late, I thought I even heard that maybe some members of the U.S. women's national ski team might have been
skaters.
What I heard was ice skaters. There were some ice skating teams on the plane. Yeah.
Oh, so sad.
So yeah, and yeah, absolutely. That's it's bad, and we don't know. The only thing else I heard is they recovered all the bodies except for two. Except for two of the Army men. There were 3 Army guys, and only one of them's been found. So.
But all 64, were there 64 on the plane, or?
I think there were 60 plus a crew of 4. Is what I heard.
4, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of. Those midterm flights, a smaller airplane.
Yeah, regional thing.
Yeah, regional flight, right, and flying for American Airlines. So supposed to land at 9:00 last night. Now, for some reason, it's interesting. The only other thing I heard is that the air traffic controllers had them land on a different runway. They changed their runway assignment as they were approaching. So.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, but
yeah.
I heard the runway 33 that they were headed for is a relatively short runway and only used typically by those smaller planes or regional planes, things like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Wow.
So our prayers go out to all of them and their families, and it's
wow.
Air traffic accidents are not good. So I would expect, if the staffing story was true, I would expect, and I know you all recall, you remember when Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers, that they'll have some kind of he might have some kind of a pause, maybe 24 hours. They'll figure out a way to do it, but they're going to go and check out everybody that's up in those towers now to make sure they're manned. And because Trump was pretty adamant in his press conference today about having the right people up in those towers to direct traffic, and the smart people. And evidently there's some question about some of those people being fully qualified that are up there now. So.
Well, I'm going to interject something here.
Yeah, go ahead, Zack.
After years of affirmative action and some DEI, that does not surprise me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's infected everything. So, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, so tell me about Katie Hobbs and what's going on there. I got a story about Florida too. I don't know if you've heard about DeSantis fighting with his Republican friends in our legislature about immigration, but I'll tell that story or kind of clue you guys in after you talk about Arizona. But I've seen headlines all week about the $300+ million that they can't figure out where it went or what's going on there.
Well, I've, in all my experience with the state government, we know where money goes. In fact, several years ago, the state treasurer's office, I think it started under Dean Martin, was continued under Jeff DeWitt and Doug Ducey, and then now with Kimberly Yee, we have a program called Open Books Arizona. And every dime that is spent in any state agency, we know where the money is spent. But what I have seen in the headlines as well is that between some state agencies that they might be overspending by about $300 million at this point in the fiscal year. Now, couple facts. Arizona's budget is a fiscal budget, starts on July 1st, ends on June 30th. So we're just kind of past the, we're at the end of January. So we're just about 7 months into a 12-month budget cycle that will end on June 30th. And so I'm sure that there are no final numbers as far as, the total spending by the state as a whole or any state agency individually until we get somewhere into June. But usually if you're hearing about overspending in January, you're hearing about somebody concluding that, if an agency had $100 million to spend in a year, that they shouldn't have spent more than about 7/12 of that by the end of January. And maybe there's some state agencies that have spent more than that. And when that happens, there's really two options. The state agencies can curtail and reduce their spending the remaining 5 months. Or if they feel like they're going to continue on a path to overspending, they have to get a supplemental appropriation, it's called, approved by the legislature, which happens fairly regularly. Usually there's somewhere between 5 and 10 supplemental appropriations covering all of state government each year, but usually they're for, a couple million here, a couple million there. 300 million is way above normal. And so it just is up to now. The biggest news about state budget is that the governor's state budget, our office of state budget, it's called OSPB, resigned all of a sudden yesterday. So something is amiss in the Hobbs administration Office of Strategic Planning and Budgeting, OSPB. The director's name was Sarah Brown, and she tendered her resignation yesterday, effective immediately.
Okay.
So
no explanation, Ken? Anybody heard any explanation? Or
I haven't heard one, and I didn't see the actual letter of her resignation. But I was in some meetings with some lobbyists and others today, and that was pretty big news because she doesn't have the strongest budget office people, most people believe, in the first place. Yeah. She brought the budget, most of her governor's staff came from her Secretary of State offices. And having been the Arizona Secretary of State, running the Secretary of State's office, which is 140 employees and a budget of about $20 million a year, is a far cry from the sophistication of budgeting for the entire state, which is 60,000 statewide employees and state money about $23 billion a year. When you add the federal money that comes through the state of Arizona, it's about $70 billion a year. So running a $20 or $25 million state agency with a couple hundred people is a lot different than running the state, with those kinds of people and those kinds of numbers. So this has not been one of her strong points, and to have her budget director resign all of a sudden, not a good picture.
Yeah, interesting. And is there any connection between any agency or any spending having to do with the illegals in Arizona? I mean, has she spent a lot of money on illegals like New York City and some of the other places have? or do we
No,
not?
I don't think.
No?
No, I don't think so. We now lots of money gets spent in Arizona on illegals. There's a federal law, for example, that says the school districts,
Yeah.
227 school districts around Arizona, 580 some charter schools, um, can't even ask a student or their family what their immigration status is. If they show up and say, I want an education, federal law says you have to accept them. In the prison system, we know we probably have thousands of prisoners who are in the country illegally. But there's not a separate line item in the state budget,
Right.
either in the education department or in the prison department, or the other big one is healthcare. If illegals are getting on Medicare or excuse me, Medicaid, which in Arizona, if illegals are getting on Medicaid, or in Arizona, what's called Access, the Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System, inappropriately, it just gets buried in a big number that says there's 2.5 million Arizonans on Access, but it's estimated that probably somewhere between $2 and $3 billion of the $70 billion of state and federal money that is spent in Arizona every year, 2 to 3 billion of that is healthcare, prison, incarceration, or education costs for illegals.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the prison problem will be solved pretty quickly here. These big beautiful C17s that you see behind me here are going to be hauling some of them away pretty soon. So that'll get rid of that problem.
Could get real busy down in Guantanamo, I hear.
Yeah. So. Well, I think the idea is, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Ken. I think the idea of what I heard is that the worst of the worst, the most violent ones, are going to be removed from the country right away, and they'll get to stay down there for a while until they get transported to their home countries. So the idea is to get them out of here, and if there's any delay getting them to their, to their country of origin, then they'll be put down there. What do you think, Zach? Think that's the plan?
I don't know.
Don't know?
No. There's a lot of stuff that's smoke and mirrors right now.
Yeah. Okay.
That may be one of them. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of let's just say there's a lot of flack concerning using military aircraft.
Yeah.
Well, whenever the mainstream media starts targeting things, that means they're effective.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So the more flack they draw, the better job they're doing.
Yeah.
They're over the target.
And
that's right.
These Air Force crews, they got to have training. They do training flights every week, so they're just writing these off to training flights. This is all they're doing.
Sure.
And
Sure.
flight time and getting their pilots getting their records and efficiency up to date. So I'm sure they're enjoying it very much.
But I think
they like to work.
I think what the mainstream media is excited about is how much the Trump people enjoy seeing these people board U.S. Air Force aircraft.
Oh, we all do.
Well, yeah. And that was sort of a benefit that was unseen. The real point was to make the point to the people in foreign countries that the free lunch is over.
Yeah, right.
America is serious about illegal immigration, and you come over here, our military is going to get involved, and you're going home. And that point is being made.
Yeah,
and people are stopping.
Yeah, they see those big airplanes land in those countries, they'll get the message. So
yeah. And I saw 2 videos today about them interviewing. It was Colombia and Brazil, I think it was. And the people says, no, don't go to America. No, don't. They don't want you there anymore.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole point, is to stop the flow.
We want you there. Just come legally.
Yeah. Well, no, we're
Sign up
not
for
there yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
We're not.
eventually we'll accept you somewhere down the road, but legally is okay, not illegally.
Don, there was an article this morning uh, about the Chicago FBI office is the agents are calling in with the blue flu, and Steve Friend, who's was a whistleblower with the FBI, and they nailed him. Is saying that what's happening is the agents are afraid to go out and support the ICE effort because their supervisors will then brand them as MAGA lovers, and that will affect their careers. So they're all calling in sick, not all, but a bunch of them are calling in sick so that they don't have to go out and work with ICE to bring these illegals in.
Interesting. Yeah, someone like that, they shouldn't even be in law enforcement. They shouldn't even be an FBI person. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, they're afraid of the supervisors is what it is, because the supervisors are all anti-MAGA.
Yeah, the way to advance your career is to do a good job in law enforcement. I mean, that's the way you advance, right?
Well, people that aren't in law enforcement might believe that.
Yeah, I know. I understand, Zach. I know you've been in law enforcement, and there's a lot of politics involved, unfortunately. So,
I've been involved with all of the federal agencies.
Yeah.
I was in the Border Patrol for 26 years, and politics was rampant in every one that I was involved with.
How did you like the videos of Kristi Noem in New York, or in was it Chicago? She was
New York.
Was it New York? Yeah, New York City, where she was out there with all of them picking them up. That was pretty cool.
Well, I write that off to optics.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's good optics.
It is good. It is good optics.
Yeah, she's in the fight.
But and I like the fact that you got to understand that I doubt she speaks Spanish or a foreign language, and she probably doesn't know how to operate a wrist lock on a set of handcuffs.
Probably not. She knows how to shoot.
Yeah,
I've seen her shoot
Ride
a
a horse.
shotgun.
But you see what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think it's good for the people that were working for her to see her there.
Okay, so here's a good question for you guys. And it used to be a few years ago in Arizona, and I'm sure it's still the case, that the cartels have these scouts that are out on these mountaintops in Arizona. And I'm sure there's more in more states than Arizona. Are we going to send military people after them and get rid of those people finally?
Hope so.
Yeah, it's gonna be military assault than a house arrest. Because they've got those.
I think that the Trump administration is going to reach beyond that. They're going to go for the head of the snake. And that's just a distant, if you kill the head of the snake, the rest of it goes away.
Yeah. Well, I just wondered, I can remember when Pinal County sheriffs and all of them were, even back to Paul Babu, where they complained about these scouts that are out on these hills in Pinal County, and we have those areas in Arizona that they had signs up where it's not safe. It's not safe to hike here because you got cartel people running around. So I would hope they clean all that stuff out of there. They need to take back that 100 miles up from the border, and
it's not likely.
Yeah, you don't think so?
Now, the whole idea of the 100 miles is to stop and question. The 25 miles line is that you can go on and take whatever equipment you want with you to enforce the immigration laws.
Yeah.
That's a big difference from the 100-mile line. Now, I remember I was in Jackson, Mississippi one day on a detail with the Border Patrols, the national shooting matches. And Mississippi Highway Patrol, they're people that regulate the cross-country 18-wheeler trucks, had set up a checkpoint an arrest area there in Jackson on I-10, or was it I-20? Yeah, one of them. And they started stopping traffic, and they had 2 border patrolmen there. And in 20 minutes, they caught 200 illegal aliens.
Wow.
All of them crossed at Nogales.
Really?
And I was at Nogales at the time.
Yeah.
And I had previously gotten myself in the doghouse. Then they asked me what percentage of the people that we were apprehending. Were we catching 90, 93%? And I told them it was closer to 10.
It turns out you were right.
Yeah. But you see, there's a big danger in being right,
Oh yeah, sure.
because you're not a team player.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I understand. So, well, what's going on in Florida is we had raids yesterday in Florida. They had raids in Tallahassee, Sanford, Florida, which is next to Orlando, and down in Miami. And of course, we've got the Coast Guard turned on big time around the waters, including the new Coast Guard maps that say Gulf of America, and which is pretty good. And but we're having a battle in our legislature. DeSantis called a special session of the legislature to lay out the immigration plan for the state of Florida in the cooperation with the federal government. Well, the Republican, some of the Republican legislators got on the high horse, and they came in for the special session. They wrote out a bill to help DeSantis to what he wanted, and then they voted it down and closed the lights. And then the next day they opened up their own session, put together a new bill they're calling the Trump bill, and they've sent that to DeSantis's desk. Well, the interesting thing is they've taken away the governor's power to handle state immigration, and they've given it to the Secretary of Agriculture. And so now they got DeSantis really excited. So that's the battle they're having now. He's going to veto their bill, and although the sheriffs and everybody are cooperating with ICE and the federal government, this is just kind of a extra stuff, extra power to put into the immigration laws of the state to help out the feds. So I don't know how all this got started, or why the Republican House and Senate are the Senate leader, the House leader, but they're all up in arms and going at each other now. And
It sounds like to me they're collecting trading material. They want something else, and they're gonna
could be
raise the bar to get Sanders to do something he probably doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
To get what he does want.
Yeah.
Because the people have spoken. They want this immigration stuff done, and they want it done now.
Yeah.
And if they oppose it very much, I think they're playing with fire.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think you're right, and the people certainly cast their ballots, and I think it's way over 60% wanted the border closed and want this illegals out of the country. So yeah, I agree with you. So
60% of the vote in Florida, you mean, or what?
60% of the voted in the country, over 60% were in favor of keep closing the border and removing the illegal aliens. Yeah.
Is that on some exit polls or something?
Yeah, I think so, Ken. I'm not sure what the polling was, but I've seen that too.
Because Trump didn't get 60% of the vote.
No.
So it must be
it's like
some type of exit.
Yeah, I think so. It was high on their list of,
Yeah, I saw 2 different polls. One of them said 63%, and the other one said 70%. Wanted the immigration situation resolved.
Yeah. So have you guys been keeping track of all of the things that have been done since January 20th? Have you been able to?
I tried and I got dizzy.
I know. I tried to make a list, and I'm not going to read it here, but I've got a front and back page of probably 40 different things, and I kept adding to it as we added on each day of activity. So, did you hear about that he fired 17 of the inspector generals?
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the inspector generals for the U.S. agriculture, I guess it was.
Yes.
She wouldn't leave her office, so security had her physically removed.
Wow.
So I don't know if you guys heard about that or not.
I
Yeah.
did not.
I heard about it, and a lot of people in America don't understand how important agriculture is to America.
Yeah, I know. Boy,
Yeah,
is
I
that
mean,
true.
what are we going to do without food?
Yeah,
What has been brought to her attention she didn't act on?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, they all got fired because they weren't doing their jobs.
And
they're
that
supposed
probably
to.
means expecting valid complaints.
Yeah, exactly. And so, have you guys? Are you familiar with the name Lieutenant Colonel Stu Schuler?
No.
Does that ring a bell, Paul?
No.
He was the Marine colonel that publicly denounced the Pentagon for the way they pulled out of Afghanistan and got those 13 Marines killed. I mean, he publicly went after him. He ended up in the brig, okay. And they tried to court-martial him. Eventually, he resigned his commission. But he's been appointed as Trump has appointed him as one of the assistant directors in the Pentagon now. So he's got a new job.
Karma.
Yeah. And then there's a Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer. Have you heard that name? U.S. Air Force.
Yes, I have heard that name.
He was an F-15 pilot. And he wrote a book basically about DEI and how it's killing the services and killing the recruiting. And of course, they forced him to resign. He's an Air Force Academy graduate, F-15 pilot. You know how much money we spend on training a guy to fly an F-15? I mean, people don't realize how much money is spent on a pilot, and which is, of course, not the only value. There's the human value, which is even more. So he now has a new job. He's an undersecretary of the Air Force now. So he gets
more karma.
Yeah, he gets to supervise some of these generals that got rid of him. So, which is kind of interesting. One of them is in Space Force. I guess when he was kicked out, he was in the new Space Force, and the head of the Space Force, the general, was the one that removed him. So,
And on the president, one of his executive orders was to reinstate some 8,000 military that were thrown out for not taking the death jab.
Right, the vaccine, yeah.
And but somebody made the comment that because he also threw out all the transgenders, and somebody said, well, it's just kind of a swap.
Yeah,
there are about 1,000 transgenders in the military.
I did see that comment. Yeah, I did see that. So Trump has banned central bank digital currency. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, he doesn't want the government overseeing the digital currency thing. Basically,
well, it's much worse than that. They can track every transaction you make now.
Exactly.
But worse than that, they can also push the button and close that account if you're not politically correct.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah,
So
and he called out Bank of America for exactly doing that. You know, at Davos. Yeah.
that's what Trudeau did to the truckers in a sense.
Yeah.
Closed
Exactly.
all their accounts so they couldn't function.
So he also had all of the pride displays and pride walls and flags in the VA clinics have all been removed. So they all
I just got a note.
go ahead,
I
Paul.
just got a note this morning. It's HR. I can't remember the number now, but anyway, it's a bill has been presented to the House to make Congress go on the VA medical system instead of their own medical system. They feel like that will get a little more attention to the VA and help veterans. So,
Are they seeing? There's also a lot of photos on the internet. It's hard to verify exactly where they're taken of self-deportation. Some of them were taken from going from El Paso into Juarez. But have you guys? How about you, Zack? Have you noticed any self-deportation going on in Nogales?
When we talk about self-deportation, that means on the volition of the alien without assistance of the physical assistance from the government.
Right.
And it would be without questioning every vehicle going through southbound. It'd be hard to determine.
Yeah. No pickup in the truck. Have they reopened the border checkpoint at Tubac, or was that ever closed?
It was closed only temporarily when we had a rush of illegal aliens they had to process.
Okay. So it's open now.
it's open
Oh yeah.
because I went through it.
Okay.
I go through it at least once a week.
Yeah. What else we got here?
I'd like to bring something up that I think is interesting.
Go ahead, Zack.
House of Representatives 374 to abolish the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Hey, there's an idea.
I've heard that there were some Republicans that were going to write a bill to do that. So
No, it's already been introduced.
yeah, good. That's good. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I understand. Well, alcohol and tobacco probably used to be, I mean, back in Prohibition days. I guess that's when that all came into being. It must have been, huh?
That was under Treasury
Yeah,
because it was non-tax paid whiskey.
yeah. So, but it seems kind of unnecessary now, unless you're a big anti-gun nut, then you like the ATF, right? Because they find all kinds of ways to take even parts of guns away from people.
I saw a T-shirt the other day that said, "Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms ought to be a convenience store, not a government agency."
That's good. Now, I also heard today
I can tell you horror stories about the ATF.
well, we know that about the gun running under Obama, right?
Yeah.
Fast and Furious. And
Yeah.
the guy
There you
that
go.
ran it's still a supervisor here in Tucson.
Yeah, there you go.
Nothing happened to him.
Yeah, and nothing happened to Eric Holder other than he was what do you call it? He was, what's the word I want to think of for Eric Holder? He was banned. Censored.
He
Yeah,
was censored by Congress.
Right, he was censored. Yeah. For what that's worth, right? Now I've heard this number may have gone up. I've heard they've located almost 80,000 or 85,000 of the missing children. Is that number going up? Have you heard?
I heard 75,000.
Yeah. So I mean that's a big thing. There's 300. There was an estimate of 300,000 missing children. So they're working on that. They canceled the Green New Deal. They canceled the electric vehicle mandate. I heard a story the other day about London. I don't know if you guys heard this or not. London had declared a certain part of the city a special emissions-free zone. And if you had an electric vehicle, you could drive through there for free. But if you had a gasoline powered vehicle, you had to pay a special tax to go through that zone in London, right? Well, they weren't raising enough money now, so now they're taxing everybody. Even the electric guys got to pay tax now.
Oh, goodness.
Now,
Well, there's a reason we threw their tea in the bay.
that's right. Well, don't they know the wind blows?
Yeah.
I mean, how can you possibly have a zone inside a city that's supposed to be, clean air, right?
Communists have no conscience or reason.
That's true.
They just do things.
Yeah. Well, that's one of them. Okay, what else we got on our list here? The Marines are at the border now. Did you notice? The first thing I noticed about the Marines landing at the border was the first thing they did when they got off their Ospreys and their helicopters, they went over and got their weapons. Right?
That makes sense.
Marines don't go anywhere without their weapons, and a lot of the press was confused by that. Right? They just don't. They don't go unarmed anywhere, and they probably had bullets with them too. Are there still some J6ers that are having a problem? I heard this guy named Jeremy Brown, who used to be a Green Beret Master Sergeant, was still being held by someone. Have you heard anything about J6ers, Paul?
The last I heard was the Bowser and the DC jail was not letting the pardoned J6ers out of the jail. And there was an article this morning by a father of a guy who's in the prison that he had packed up all his stuff and was sitting out in a waiting room for the release. They came in, 5 guards came in, punched him up, handcuffed him, and threw him back in his cell. Now, that's the father's story. I don't know how true it is, but just from what I've heard for the last 4 years, that doesn't sound out of character. So.
Yeah, I wonder what is the deal with that DC jail? I mean, don't the marshals have jurisdiction over that DC jail?
Well, they gave them home rule.
Yeah.
No, I think it's Secret Service. I think the police on the Capitol grounds are Secret Service.
Oh, are they? Okay.
They have Capitol Police.
Yeah.
Well, I think Capitol Police are Secret Service, because some of the Border Patrol agents I worked with came from that organization.
Okay. But I wonder, does the mayor of DC really have that kind of authority? I mean, that they can't go in there and get those people out?
I think the DC Police Department is separate from the Capitol Police.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're different organizations. And I don't know how powerful the mayor is, but the article that I was reading this morning indicated that she was one holding those guys in prison, not letting them out after they'd been pardoned. So
Ken, does the Arizona governor have control of the of DPS? The Department of Public Safety people work for the governor?
The director of DPS is appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And so, yes, essentially that's a state agency that comes under the executive branch.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Would there be any reason to suspect that Hobbs has asked those people to break the law and interfere with the federal government taking these people out?
I know of no evidence of that, but yeah. I saw that Tom Homan was quoted as saying if Hobbs gets in the way and tries to prevent ICE from doing their job, he'll arrest her too. So
yeah. Well, there's I wonder if I can't imagine any law enforcement person in Arizona or any other state would actually take ordering me to violate federal law. I guess that's possible, and there may be some guy out there that would do that, but I can't imagine that happening.
No, it's yeah.
Don't assume anything.
Yeah. There might be one sneaking through the weeds somewhere that would do that, but I know there's some sheriffs there's an Illinois sheriff that's been pretty resistant, but he's going to have to be careful because, you can't.
But there's Santa Cruz County Sheriff here has been very resistant.
Has he?
Oh yeah.
But he's not enough to stop people from being deported, though, right? Picked up. He's not interfering with their operations.
Well, he doesn't arrest anybody, so he doesn't have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a couple of school districts. There's a couple school districts in the Phoenix area that have voted to disallow ICE on school property or something like that. But
so they're
hasn't come to a head with ICE trying to go on those properties to see what would happen if they did. But
yeah, who is the superintendent of the schools now?
Tom Horn.
The state superintendent is a Republican, Tom Horn.
Oh, is it Tom Horn? Oh, okay.
Yeah, even he was quoted in a headline that says that he was questioning the wisdom of Trump's decision if the rounding up of illegals included going on to schools. So I don't know if that's exactly what he said or not, but that was what was reported.
Interesting.
You want an educated guess?
Yeah, Arizona
Yes.
Republic.
All right, the ICE raids are taking place early in the mornings. It is possible for the students to already be in school when the parent is arrested, and they would go to the school to get the child so that they can take the family unit together. That's probably what that's about.
Oh,
So they could hardly not interfere with that, right? I mean, they're always.
I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, they're always yapping about interfering with breaking up the family unit. Well, that's putting the family unit together because Homan's already. I've heard him say many times. They ask him, are you going to break up families? Are you going to break up families? And he says, well, their kids are going with them, right? We're going to. Everybody goes together. Why break them up? You don't need to. So
I can definitely see that. My experience in picking up adults. All you don't know about the kids until after they're arrested and in custody. And if they find out he's got 5 children in public school, they can't take him without the kids.
Yeah. So they got to go.
Because they're doing what's called expedited removal.
Gotcha.
They're gone in 48 hours.
So Ken, did you finish your roof? Public wants to know if you finished your roof. They're worried about you.
2 more pieces. We're going to finish tomorrow. The A cap, that is the final 2 pieces. We had too much wind last Friday.
Okay.
And they're a little bit flimsy until you screw them down to the metal roof panel. So short answer is no, but
close.
Hope to be able to say yes by the end of tomorrow. It's supposed to be 55 degrees tomorrow in Prescott. It was a couple days ago. It was 12 degrees in the morning. We had snow over the weekend, but or Monday night I think it was. But big warming trend going on all over the state.
The snow didn't bother your the roof job any? A little bit of snow?
No.
Well, that's good. So my last question to y'all is: are you seeing any influx from the LA people, Californians coming? Has anybody talked about that? Have you seen anything that some of those people have given up and are coming out your way?
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard them talk about it on some local radio talk shows here in the Prescott area that realtors and the realtor industry is kind of expecting that there's going to be more interest coming from people wanting to leave California.
You think they could just track the U-Haul trailers coming out of California, right? How many going in? How many going out?
There are so many U-Haul trailers that have left California that U-Haul is out of trailers in California, and they have to pay people to drive
bring
them
them
into
back.
California so they have some inventory.
Hey, that's a good way to make money. Haul some trailers into California, right?
Haul some, yeah.
So I did hear about the mayor there, that Bass. I guess her last name is Bass.
Karen
so.
Bass.
Yeah, I heard she told all the homeowners that they've put together a master plan and she's going to hire contractors and it's out of their hands now to rebuild that area. And they are in an uproar.
It's not what she told the president a couple days ago.
That's not what she told the president. Definitely not. So it almost makes doing something like that almost makes her complicit in the fires. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
There was a rumor.
She is a known card-carrying communist.
Well, I know that. Yeah. But
There was a rumor that California wanted to make Pacific Palisades one of those 15-minute cities. Now that it's all gone.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I hope that I hope that those homeowners get to go back to their property, clean it off, and rebuild if they want to, and those that don't can go, wherever they want to go. So, Ken, are you against the clock?
I am, and I'm going to have to run here in a minute.
Well, that's okay. We'll conclude now, and thanks all you guys for joining. Anything else anybody else want to bring up, mention, say hi to anybody?
Just
Everybody,
prayers to the families.
Prayers to the families. How about next Thursday is February 6th?
Sounds right.
Is that right? I got to be careful because I don't get this right all the time.
Yes, February 6th.
Okay. Is everybody available for February 6th?
Yes.
That's good.
I'll have to check the calendar.
Okay, Zach. Paul?
Yeah, I think we're okay. I usually keep Thursdays open for this.
Good.
I've got it on the calendar.
There you go. Good job. So, okay, you guys. God bless you guys. God bless those families that lost people last night. We're certainly thinking about them, and God bless our first responders, our Border Patrol, our ICE agents that are doing such a good job. And all I can say is, hoorah! Keep going. Get them out of here.
God bless America.
God bless America. Thanks, you guys.
Night.
Good night.